We're halfway through the year. We have 5.5 months left of 2021. Isn't that crazy, by the way? The question now is, because we are business owners, let's take a step away from working in the business and let's work on the business. Let's work as business owners, CEOs of our business. What's up, Casey? Man, I love seeing people's faces. Thanks, Casey. I can see your face. Okay, halfway through the year, what did the first half look like to you? And are you satisfied with your results? It's a rhetorical question. Don't answer it out loud. But I want to repeat it because it's an important question. We're halfway through the year. Are you satisfied with where you're at? And as your real estate coach, I understand that that is not simply a real estate question. How is your personal life doing as well? How is your physical health been through the first half of the year? Are you where you want to be? Relationally, a lot has happened in the last 6 months, right? We're finally able to get back face to face with people due to vaccinations and stuff. The world opening back up, the world is completely shifted now. Some of us haven't shifted with it. And this isn't me telling you how to live your lives because everyone's different, but are you satisfied with where you're at relationally right now with people? Are you satisfied where you're at spiritually? Financially? All these questions, big answers. And it's something that I encourage us all to reflect on seriously. Every once in a while, we do a coaching that's more than just about real estate. And that's what this can turn into. We are going to turn it back into real estate, though, here in a moment. But when we take a look at our lives as a whole, we may realize that there's something that's out of balance. So if there's something that's out of balance, what are we going to do to correct it? So if, let's just say, relational, let's go back to that. Maybe the world's opened up, but I haven't, and I'm nervous to get back out there. What are we going to do to get over that? What are we going to do to get over that fear so that you can get back out there in full stride, just like you were before COVID, making more friends, making more connections, and ultimately that's going to help your business too, right? Or maybe our physical health is deteriorated because we've gained the COVID-19. Well, maybe we need to get back in the gym. I want to be an encourager for y'all to take a look at all aspects of our lives, not just the business aspect. Cool? But let's move on to our businesses. So the year's halfway over. I want to ask you guys a rhetorical question again. Y'all had goals getting your real estate licenses or starting this year. After you've determined where you're currently at, and if you're satisfied with that, the next question is going to be, how much money do I want to make the rest of this year? I've got 5.5 months to impact my overall year. If y'all have pen and paper, I'd like you to jot a number down. And that number is, how much money do I want to make from now through December 31st? This is going to be a playing along thing, so please do this with me. Write down the number, and this is just a ballpark. It doesn't need to be some crazy scientific approach or anything. So you've got a number in front of you. Maybe it's a big number. Maybe you went conservative. It's a tiny number. We're going to reverse engineer to determine what we need to do in order to hit that number. It's all scientific from here, though, guys. It's literally a numbers game. And these numbers, I promise you, they don't lie. Can you get lucky and have some unique things happen throughout the year? Absolutely. And we hope they happen in your benefit. But whatever that number is. So for my example here, I just wrote down some really round numbers so that it would make it easy. For my example, I wrote down $50,000. So let's just say I want to make $50,000 the rest of the year. The next thing we're going to talk about is average commission. So what is your average gross commission? If you don't know it, that's okay. Let's just take a ballpark number. Let's just say that we sell on average a $200,000 house. The average commission, gross commission income, 3% of 200,000 is 6,000. So if you're lost right now, you've got one big number, that's your goal for the rest of the year. And now you have your average commission. So with every transaction, my average is about $6,000. In order to determine how many transactions I need to hit my big number goal, we're simply going to divide the big number by our average commission, and we'll get a number. For my example, I'll give you a second to do that. So everyone's average commission is going to be different, but if we have a very small sample size, I just encourage you to use that $200,000 home, which equals $6,000 GCI. In my example, $50,000 is what I want to make the rest of the year. $6,000 is my average GCI. So I divide 50,000 divided by 6,000, and I get 8.3. I can't sell 0.3 homes, so I'm going to just round up to 9. I need to sell 9 more homes the rest of the year. Those average price point homes are going to be $200,000. So if I go sell $1 million home, then obviously I don't need to sell 9. I can change that number a little bit. Also, if you have any $1 million buyers, you can send them over my way. Okay, so now let's reverse engineer even further to determine, okay, I know how many transactions I need to have. And again, your number is going to look different than mine, and it's going to look different from everybody else's. We're all snowflakes. Let's create some goals. So if I want to, for my example here, I wrote down that I want, of those 9, I want 4 to be listings and 5 to be buyers. These are closings. 4 listings and 5 are going to be buyers. Your numbers are going to be different. Next number that we need is, what is our conversion rate? So if I go on a listing appointment, what frequency do I walk away with the listing? For you, it's going to be, who knows? You may be a killer once you get in front of somebody, or you may be timid and you may not be the best yet because we need more practice. For my number here, I wrote down an easy number, 80% conversion rate. The reason I wrote down 80% is because 80% of the time, a real estate buyer or seller is going to go with the first agent they meet. So if I'm the first one in the door, then 80% of the time I'm going to get that listing or that buyer. So if my conversion rate on the 4 listings is 80%, I'm going to, again, reverse engineer this to find out how many appointments I need to go on. 4 divided by 80%. Some of us suck at math. Max admitted that he's bad at math. So when you are multiplying or doing math with a percentage, you move the decimal 2 spots to the left, right? So when we're doing this math, it's 4 divided by 0.8. How many listing appointments do I need? Erica said 5. She's correct. So 4 divided by 0.8 equals 5. So that means if my numbers hold, and they typically historically will, if I go on 5 listing appointments, I'm going to get 4 of the listings. And these days, you guys know as well as I do, if you get a listing, it's going to sell. So cool. There's 4 of my closings right there. Now on the buyer side, I want 5 buyers. Again, we're going to go with the 80% conversion rate. So 5 divided by 0.8 equals what? 6.25. Can I have 0.25 of a buyer? Not really, so we're going to round up. I need 7 buyer appointments in order to convert to my 5 actual clients. Please note, guys, if our conversion rates are better, if you have a 100% conversion rate, then you only need to go on 5 buyer appointments. Great. If your conversion rate's worse, though, what's that mean? We have to go on more appointments. The coolest thing about this whole calculation thing is it's an open book test to determine how successful you are. So the numbers don't lie. Remember, the numbers don't lie. If your conversion rate is less, you have to work harder. And you understand that because it's less, I should work on my scripting. I should work on my preparedness. And this kind of goes hand in hand with what we'll learn next with CMAs, like going into a meeting or an appointment prepared and confident. I can't speak loudly enough that you've got to be confident with every appointment you go on. You've got to go into that appointment knowing it's already mine. All I need is for them to sign. When you change your mindset, I promise you, you will see an increase in your conversion percentages. So are there any questions so far on our math? Don't be afraid to ask. None of us are math magicians here. Okay. So we have the number of transactions we need to meet our big number. We also have the number of appointments overall. Now we're going to continue to reverse engineer this and zero in on the one big thing, which is how many contacts I need in order to hit my number. So that looks like this. If I know that I need, and let's look back at the numbers. In order to get 4 listings, I need 5 appointments. And in order to get 5 buyers, I need 7 appointments. So 7 plus 5 equals 12. I need to go on at least 12 appointments in the next 5.5 months to meet my goal. Historically speaking, for, let's just say I'm your average realtor, 100 contacts, that's real estate contacts, 100 real estate contacts leads me to 1 appointment. Maybe I'm good like KC this past week. He got 100 contacts and he got 3 appointments, but you know, not everyone's that good. Whatever your number is, it's going to impact the number of contacts you need. But let's just go with that. 100 contacts equals 1 appointment. So if I need 12 appointments, what's 12 times 100? 1,200. My man, he knows that math. 1,200 contacts is what Max needs in order to meet his goal of getting 12 appointments. Again, it all comes down to numbers, and these numbers don't lie. You may have weeks where you crush it, and you may have weeks where you suck. But overall, it might average out to being what we're dictating here. So the cool thing is, though, we have 20 weeks left in the year. We're just rounding. Let's say we got 20 weeks left in the year. So if I need 1,200 contacts, divide that by 20, I know that I need 60 contacts each week in order to meet my goals at my current conversion rates. Again, if we work on conversion rates and we work on improving our scripts when we're lead generating, then maybe we can do fewer. Or let's go to the other end of the spectrum and let's strive for 100 contacts every week. If you did 100 contacts every week for 20 weeks, you'd have 2,000 contacts. And if my math serves me right, that would lead to 20 appointments, which would blow your number out of the water. So do you guys now see why I encourage 100 real estate contacts each week? I talk about it a lot. I probably annoy you guys. I'm sorry. But I do want to see you guys be successful. And so at the end of the day, if we all understand that we are directly responsible for our own success, and you're not happy with where you're at currently, we really just have one person to blame. But the good news is it's an open book test, and I now know exactly what I need to do to hit my number, whatever that number is. So before we move on, we're going to quickly review this calculation. Take your big number, whatever your goal is, and divide it by your average commission. If you only have 1 or 2 closings, guys, take it from me. Take $200,000 as your average sale price. And that gives you a nice round number, $6,000 is your average GCI. Divide your big number by your average commission, and that will give you the number of transactions you need. This calculation also works for year beginning numbers. So we're going to do the same darn thing in like November or December this year. So be ready. Maybe you guys can teach the class instead of me. Next, we're going to work on how many appointments we need in order to fulfill that number. I typically use 80% as a conversion rate. Again, use your own. If you have historical data, you know, Casey, you've probably gone on more appointments than some of these guys. Maybe you know what your conversion rate is. Maybe it's 3 out of every 4. Or maybe it's 9 out of every 10. I don't know.
Matters on the project right now. My conversion rate, why the 3 was, a lot of it has to do with horsepower farms because it's a specific client, but usually, you know, appointment percentages, like you said, I'm only at 60% right now.
Okay. So then 4 divided, if I needed 4 listings in this situation, 4 divided by 0.6 is going to be a larger number, right? It might be more like 7 or 8. I'm not a math guy, but you need more appointments that way. But that's neither here nor there. At least you know the number, and you know at the end of the week, if you hit your 1 appointment, good. If you hit 2 appointments, great, you're ahead. If you hit 0 appointments, oh shoot, I'm behind. I need to double up my efforts next week. Okay, so that math again looks like the number of appointments you need divided by your conversion rate percentage. That'll give you the number of appointments. And then to simply find out how many real estate contacts you need each week, you're going to take the total number of appointments you need and multiply it by the number of contacts it takes you to get an appointment. So maybe it's just 50 contacts. Maybe you're a killer and you get 50 contacts equals 1 appointment. Boom, you've cut your number in half. Those of us who are only getting a handful of contacts each week, though, hopefully this is a little bit more eye-opening to kind of open the door towards what big success could look like if we just did a little bit more intentional lead generation each day. And when I say each day, it doesn't have to be every day. It's Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Or whenever you can do it, but we prefer 2 hours a day. I like doing it in the morning, knock it out, move on with my day. Any questions on the numbers? Going once. Max has a question. Yes.
Not so much on the numbers, but what dictates a contact? Like if I go door knocking and I answer, is that one contact?
Max has a great question. He said, what constitutes a contact? A real estate contact is a two-way conversation about real estate. That can happen through door knocking. It can happen through cold calls. It can happen through hosting events, social media interactions back and forth, email interactions back and forth, text message interactions back and forth. It has to be back and forth though. It cannot be one-sided. It does not count. It will not increase your business, and that's the root cause. I'm not just some hard butt trying to enforce this like a military guy. The root cause of the situation is if we're not meeting our goals, we're not talking to enough people about real estate. It's that simple. Yes.
What if it's a referral that we get from Pro Coach? I mean, we reach out to them, but then obviously then they're not responding back, or if they don't.
Erica's asking, what about referrals that we get that don't respond? That's not a real estate contact. Must be two ways. Must be them talking with you, you talking with them. And I'm fine to use technology, guys. I think social media is the best thing since sliced bread if you're looking to get your business out there. Email's great. Technology, text messages is great. It's got to be back and forth though. Any ahas about this little exercise? I need 2 ahas.
I've never done a conversion rate, which is good.
Erica says she's never thought about her conversion rate, which is good. Jason, were you going to say something?
Outside, this is pretty good stuff as far as letting everybody know what they need to do to hit their goals. So I like this experiment.
Very good. Very good. And it's quick and easy, guys, right? Like a lot of times I think we overanalyze, we try to look at all these numbers. It's really simple. It really comes down to just knowing how good I am at converting and where I want to be. And if I know those 2 numbers, I can come up with how many contacts I need. All right, guys, cool. Well, the next thing we're going to go jump into, and if you have any additional questions about how to calculate where you're at, where you want to be, then reach out to me one-on-one. I'm happy to take some time and walk through it with you. Can you all see my screen? Are you able to shift a little so he can see?
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is a CMA. Competitive market analysis. I'm going to show you guys how I do things really quickly, and then we're going to show you how we do it a little bit more in depth. And if you think this is repeat information, I have covered this before, but a lot of you weren't even in coaching then. So this is a shameless plug for my YouTube channel. Go there if you ever need anything real estate education related. That's Trailblazing Real Estate. That's the name of the page. And it's got all of our past coachings along with quite a bit of training videos. So let's do a CMA, shall we? Erica, what's an address that I could use?
Oh, absolutely. I'd be happy to provide you with that. 5625 Blendon Place Drive. 79.
Cool. So when I type that in, you guys can all follow along with me. I'm gonna do this on my thing the way that I do quick CMAs. Quick CMAs, okay? I'm gonna click on this. It comes up with looks like a condo, Columbus. Cool. I'm gonna go over here to more. I'm gonna go to consolidated. Some of this is blanking out, but the only thing that I leave checked is nearby comparable sales. If anyone needs me to slow down or whatever, just okay. So I'm going to go back and do this again. So I get to the listing. This is a previous listing. This listing took place in 2015. If I want to run a real quick comparison, this is a very high level in the clouds comparison. This is not a lot of work. I'm going to go to more. You see this little toolbar up here. There's all kinds of great stuff in here. If you haven't played around the MLS yet, or if you haven't taken the MLS, 1 or MLS 2, take those classes, become well-versed in this, because this is how we do our jobs. If I click on more, there's going to be a drop down. If you go to consolidated, you'll pop, a new window will pop up if you're on a Mac. And then there's all kinds of report options. Nearby comparable sales is the one that I want to leave checked. And by the way, I did this once when I first got licensed and it's never updated. So like it'll always just be checked. And instead of emailing a report, I'm just going to pull it up here on a preview. So I go to preview. It does take a minute to collect all the information. And then once it does, voila. What you're greeted with on the first page is a map with some dots on it. It always pulls 9 comps. Sometimes the comps, depending on the area, can get kind of way out there and you're really not comparing apples to apples. In this situation, it does appear as though they're all in the same neighborhood, which is pretty nice. How confusing would it be to be in this neighborhood? Everything's blended. Blending way, blending point, blending place. Good gosh. Okay, anyways, as you scroll down, you're going to see the 9 comps. This days listed number here, that's kind of fraudulent. That's normally from when it was listed to when it closed, which isn't fair. I'd rather see how many days on market, but we can look at that information in a moment. When it sold, so you know how valid of a comp it really is. So which is more valid, March 16th, 2021 or October 2nd, 2020? What's more valid? Something that happened just recently or something that happened last year?
Most recent.
Thank you. Yes. So we kind of take some of these with a grain of salt. So for instance, this October 2nd one sold for 143. Well, what would that sell for now? Gee whiz, who knows? Maybe 160, right? But the most recent one that sold was June 18th for 160. And that's probably a pretty good gauge of the market of the moment. Now, I want more information. I'm going to scroll down. The subject property here, there's an address, all this cool information. And then the thing that I look at the most here are the physical makeup of the home. 2 bed, 2 full bath, 1 half bath. As I look across, we are comparing apples to apples. And that's what we always want to do when we're pulling comps. When I say comps, hopefully you all understand that means comparable sales. Y'all should have watched
One question, Josh.
Yeah.
So do you always, backing up, you always do the nearby comparisons? That's what you always click on when you're comparing?
When I'm doing it this quick way, yes.
Okay. And then also, what if you're doing the subject property, but it was a builder that built it, but it's not on here? It'll still pull up, correct? Or not?
If it's ever been entered in the MLS, it has to have been entered in the MLS for it to show up.
Okay.
There's a class, there's a Flex MLS class that explains how to do, I was trying to learn how to do it myself, where you do CMA if you have like an old listing in the MLS, and it shows you kind of like this, but it's a little more in depth, but this quick way seems a lot better. But they also show how to do it if it's like a new build or if it was, you know, if it's never been, you know, it was built in the 40s or whatever, and it was never listed, and it's just stayed within that same family or whatnot. And it shows you how to do it within like an area.
I will show you all how to do that next. This is a three-pronged approach. I should have started with that. This is the simplest. The second thing I'm going to do is the second simplest. And the third thing I'm going to do is the most laborious. So good question. Hang with me. On here, what I'm using is I want to make sure it's apples to apples. So all these are apples to apples. Their square footages are all identical. So I'm literally comparing the same thing to the same thing. Garage, same. Pool, must have community pool. Everything's identical. So the only thing that's going to be different about these properties is when they sold and what they got. This is a very high level thing. Once I got a list of a couple different homes that I want to do a little bit more additional research on, then I can go on to the interior photos and compare and contrast the upgrades and updates on the inside. Trust me, most of the time when I pull these up, it's in a single family residential, and it's not like this at all. It's all over the place, where one home will have 1024 and then the next home will have 2000. So it's not apples to apples, and you have to take those things into consideration. But when I see these things, I go back real quick to the map and I say, which homes are closest to mine? And in this situation, home number 1, 6, and 9 are closest. So as I scroll back here, 1 sold for 181.1 just a couple months ago. This number, remember, you're not going to take this number into consideration. This is just this is the old 2015 number. The other number I want to see was number 6. Same space here. Apples to apples plus 200 square feet. That does count for something. $167,000. So if we're averaging the two out, we're at about 175, we'll call it. And then last one was number 9, which is apples to apples minus the additional half bath and 200 extra square feet. And that sold for 164. So if we're averaging all three of those closest units, and Max actually asked me this before, how many comps do you use when you're trying to derive a price? I like to use at least 3 comps. And those 3 appear to be pretty good ones, considering that they're right in my neck of the woods. And the average, if we're looking at those, is probably 168, 169. We can't just take a ballpark average, though. We do have to understand the interior makeup of these homes. So we're going to go back. This is step 1. Does anyone have any more questions on step 1? Basically, it's as easy as putting in the previous listing, if there is one, and clicking on consolidated, and then all comparable recent sales, preview the report, and boom, you've got it. So you see how quick that method is. I would never use only that leading into a listing appointment, though. This is more for me, if I'm helping a buyer and they want to know if it's a good value to buy this house, I normally click that real quick while I'm at the listing. And I say, looks like at a surface level, yeah, this is a pretty good average deal. Yes.
Okay. You only look at closed, or do you look at active? Because the way that I did it, I did find 1 active and then 3 closed.
The question is posed, do I only look at closed units, or do I look at active as well? If I'm going into a listing appointment, I want to know the active market around me. Absolutely. But from a appraiser's point of view, do they care about actives? Not at all. They only care about closed within the last 12 months. So really, I'm looking more at closed because that speaks much higher than actives or in contracts. Now, if I am going to price a home and there's some things in contract in that general area, I pick up the phone. I call that agent. I say, hey, agent, I see you're in contract on 123 Main Street. I'm about to list one down the street. What can you tell me about how much traffic you got and what your offer is? Maybe they'll tell you exactly what it is. Most of them actually do for some reason. You're not really supposed to. But the more information you can get to supply your seller with, the better. This next phase is phase 2 of my lead gen. So I see Blended Woods here. So we're going to go quick search. If you don't have any favorites saved, you go to menu, quick search. I see a big map over here. I'm going to go to Blended Woods area, put it in the center, and then zoom in on it. I'm trying to find that neighborhood now. Here it is, right here. Let me move y'all. So next step is to draw a lasso or a polygon tool around it. If you haven't done this before, again, I encourage you, get into those Flex MLS classes. Click on that. Boom, 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 boom. Double click to start getting results. And this is going to show us anything that's coming soon, active or contingent. If I click on view results, I'm going to get a good snapshot of everything that's active. I see 2 active homes and 5 that are in contract. They are all 2-bed, 2.5 bath homes, except for 2. So these are all apples to apples. I see the average days on market for the ones that are in contract is probably 3 days on market. That's encouraging. Always go into your listing appointment equipped with that information. You're going to make people feel a lot better about themselves, that it's not going to take a long time. The 2 that are active have been active for longer, so there's clearly something wrong. One's priced too high, I'll bet, 185. And one is probably something's wrong with it. It's priced too low. It probably needs a lot of work. The real thing that I want, though, is I'm going to go back to edit search, click on status. I really want to know about closed. And closed within the last year. Holy cow, there have been a ton that have sold. Jiminy Christmas. So let's just click on solds. 43 have sold. Well, I'm going to have a pretty big sample size, guys, which is good and almost more work than I really wanted. But what we can learn from this is, hey, why did some of these homes take forever to sell? And why did certain homes sell so quickly? From here, I'm going to do a little bit more deep dive, right? So detail. I can find out which ones are 2-bed, 2.5 bath. And why don't we just do that? Let's compare apples to apples here. So bedrooms, 2. I only want 2 bedrooms. I only want 2 fulls. And I only want 1/2. This is comparing literally apples to apples. Now we're down to 17, which is much more manageable. How many square foot was that last one?
1024, at least the subject.
And let's go ahead and do 1024 and see how many apples to apples come up. 8, that's plenty sample size. So I told you I want 3 at least. I definitely don't want all 8, but we'll find the 3 to 5 that are the best comparison. And we should caveat all of this by saying, I am not going to derive a number for a listing until I've stepped foot into that listing. Let me say that again. Never go in with a number to a listing appointment if you've never been in the property. Why?
Because you don't know anything.
Because it could be in really bad shape.
Yep. Could be a crap hole inside, or it could be a palace. And those two things are gonna,
upgrade.
yeah, those 2 things are going to definitely make a difference. So if I'm looking through my 8 results here, I see 157. The lowest is 133. The highest is 186. That's quite a spread. So it's going to cause me to do some more research here on which ones I think are the most apples to apples. But at least I know heading into the appointment, hey, seller A and B. The spread here is as low as 133 and as high as 186. I'm not going to be able to give you a value until I walk through the home with you. And that's my goal today, is to walk through this home with you and identify where you rank kind of in that pecking order. Because, you know, depending on your updates, you could be 186. And I always like to talk about the high end. I don't like to talk much about the low end because nobody's going to think that they're on the low end first off. And it's a psychological thing to build them up rather than tear them down. So as you can see, this is a little bit more in-depth way of researching comparable sales. Last thing we're going to do, remember that address, is we're going to do an actual CMA through the MLS here. Under menu, we're going to go to CMA. New. Residential. By the way, as you can tell, this isn't hard. None of this stuff is rocket science. You just need to know where to go. Next. Okay, title is compare. If I was going to actually use this for a listing appointment, I would say title, comparable market analysis for 241 Main Street for Bob and Lisa Smith. As of, this is important that they understand that all this information that we will be presenting to them is as of the specific date. That's the way the appraisers work as well, because my value today could change tomorrow if something else closes for higher. So it's important to understand. As of today, prepared by, I always like to do myself because I want them to remember my name. That's important. One piece of coaching advice is to put your name subliminally in front of them as much as possible. Reason being, you want to connect with them. You want to be their Crest or their Colgate. Next step. Address. What was the address again?
5625 Glendon Place Drive.
City, Columbus. 43230. Now, I could auto-populate the fields from an existing listing. What that means is I can go back into the previous listing from 2015 and auto-populate by just putting the MLS number. That's a great way to do it. I'm going to show you this way because it's a little bit longer, and it's the harder way to do it. So the easier way to do it is to auto-populate from a previous listing, and it's very simple to do. From here, I might upload a photo if I've been there. A question was asked, can I use a photo from the previous listing in my literature? Technically, do you own that photo? No. So you technically should not. Where could you get a public records photo if you needed one? The auditor's website. If you really want a photo and really want to look hot, go get it from the auditor's site or just drive by the darn property, take a picture. Okay, if I'm not, let's pretend I added a photo. Next, subdivision. You're going to type all this stuff in. Bedrooms, 2. Total baths, 3. Square foot. Does everyone remember what ATFLS stands for?
Actual square footage.
So square foot tax record is the auditor's square footage. ATFLS stands for approximate total finished living space. So what that means is, like, if your basement is finished, that's ATFLS that you can add in your listing. Approximate total finished living space. Or let's say you have a Florida room that was added on later that's not counting the auditor's square footage, you can include that.
For that extra square footage, how do you, is that something done by like a professional? that
The
they
question
know?
is, how do you calculate ATFLS if you're like doing a listing? And the answer is one of two ways. Either it's provided by the owner, the seller, and it's all ballpark, or you go in there and walk it off. So all this stuff gets filled out, yada, yada, yada. And then we're going to go to next step. It'll ask if this is the appropriate location. I like to move the marker there. Boom. Use this location. Next, it's going to ask us to map out some comparables. 0.25 miles is a quarter mile. So it's going to search, if we go this route, it's going to search within a quarter mile. If we want to use a different way of thinking, we can, but I always just go with this geographic search. And I normally like to go as little as 0.1 miles because that's going to give me the most pinpoint apples to apples comparison. So I'm going to go find comps. This found us 11 comps, and it's a mix of active and closed. I like that because when I present this information to a seller, I'm going to have, hey, there's this active comp, and then all these other have closed. This one's still active 7 days afterwards. Odds are, if we take a look at it, we're going to understand that it's because it's priced too high. Additionally, if you're going to a listing appointment and there are actives in the neighborhood, what should you do before that listing appointment? Visit it. If this one is right down the street and this is my competition, go see it. Don't you think that the other 3 agents you're interviewing against aren't going to do that? And you're going to look like an all-star because you did the work and you can speak directly to the competition because you've physically been in there? Yes, is the answer. I don't need 11 comps for this, okay? And you're going to note that our next goal here is to click on a few of these to export them back to our CMA. Of these comparative sales, we clearly know that one of these is not a comparison. 368K, that ain't it. So I'm not using it. But this one is. Actually, it's not 2-bed, 1-bath. I'd rather use the 2-bed, 2.5 baths as direct correlations. Even the one maybe without a photo that probably sold off market. Okay, so I take those. I've got 5 selected. That's a good number. I'm going to click on these selected, and then I'm going to return them to the listings in the CMA. This little button up here. We're running out of time, so I'm sorry I'm trying to blow through this, but hopefully you're getting the gist of it. Then this next page shows you the comps, breaks it down by address, and purchase price. If I want to change this up in any way, I could do some more comparables. And if I wanted to, if I said, oh, this one I really don't want to include for some reason, I can unclick it and update the list. Next step. I do not make adjustments personally. I'm not an appraiser. I don't know what the appraisers look at in terms of making adjustments, but if you go back to your Hondros classes, the appraisal course talked all about making adjustments up and down based off of finishes. I prefer to do it based off looking at the photos and just doing mental comparisons. So I don't do anything here. Next step. This is great information here. It kind of sums up what's going to be on the report. Next step. This is where it takes an average. I don't love this, so I normally remove recommended because I never want to walk in there with a number. Because odds are I'm going to be wrong if I walk in with a number. I like walking with a range. So in this situation, Bob and Sally, the range is 145 to 188. That's quite a gap. So today we're going to walk through your house and we're going to derive a number. I'm going to run back home after this meeting and view my comps again and compare them directly to yours, having just been through it. And then I'll send you what I think it would sell for today. And I will do that via a net to seller. Net to sellers are very important, guys. It spells out what they can walk away with if it sells at a certain price point. Next is I get the option to print a report full of all kinds of information. This is what the report's going to look like if you printed everything. It's going to start off with a map. I love the map because everyone learns differently and everyone understands things differently. Some people are very analytical. They want the numbers. Some people want maps. Some people want other information. So this has everything. So this compares everything side by side by side. Had I filled all this information out and had a picture, it would populate here. I did a really shortcut version. Tells me when these things closed, how many days on the market, super encouraging, and how much. So if I walk in and the homes and the home 5625 here is in great shape, it's been recently updated, then I know it's going to be towards the high end. If it's a turd, I'm going to have to break the news that it's going to be towards the lower end. All kinds of information here. I recommend you all play around with it. And if you have any questions on it, maybe we can do a more in-depth analysis class in the future. Hopefully this has been educational. And maybe you take something away from it. I have got to go to another meeting, but I appreciate you all. I would love to see you all next Thursday, 5 o'clock at our happy hour, group happy hour. Yay, let's have a beer. Let's learn real estate. All right, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, guys. Talk to y'all later.